Hi, welcome to the farm. I'm Chad, the farmer owner of Hole in the Woods Farm in Culver, Indiana. And today we're celebrating the start of fall.
Yesterday there was sun and there was rain, beauty in the mundane. And as the light startled our eyes, we let go of disguise. And now there's something in the air and a sparkly shimmer on our skin, restoring everything within. Oh, dreamy, breezy, we go. Easy, easy on our tiptoes, undercover agents of the other. Beyond gravel, beyond all.
So fall has fallen and some of the local farmers markets are starting to shut down for the season. Of course, Hole in the Woods Farms home delivery and the Culver Farmers Market both remain open year-round. But you may still be struggling to find a way to continue to utilize all the great food that is produced right in our local region. So let's look at what we can do here at the beginning of the fall with just what was available this past weekend. So the first thing I was excited about this weekend was to find a stewing hen. The stewing hens are older, egg-laying hens that have reached the end of their productive lives. At this point in their life, they can no longer really justify the time, effort, and cost to continue to raise them for a farmer. And a lot of people think they're just a waste or a pet. They are a bit small. They're kind of lean, a little bit chewy and tough if you were to cook them in the ways that you would do a typical meat bird. But they have a ton of flavor, minerals, nutrients. These are one of the most exciting things you can do to bump up flavor in your food. And they're typically a really good deal. So let's find out what we can do with this stewing chicken and the produce that we could get right now. As the name would suggest, a stewing hen needs a long, slow, moist cooking environment to bring out its flavors and to tenderize it. So it's the best thing in the world for making stock, and you'll end up with some really good meat to use in dishes as well. We're going to go ahead and make a chicken stock with our stewing hen, and then we'll make a stew with roasted vegetables tomorrow. The easiest way to make stock is with a crock pot. You can use a stock pot if you want. I do in the winter a lot of times when I'm using the wood stove and it's bubbling away anyway. But the crock pot lets us just put things together, make it fast, and leave it. You can cut up your stewing hen, especially if it's a larger one that doesn't fit in your crock very well. But these are such small birds and we're going to cook it for such a long time that I'm just going to put this one in whole. And then we'll wash our hands. Always wash your hands after touching raw poultry. Along with our bird, we're going to throw in a few vegetables. This is not the place to use your nice, pristine vegetables that you're so proud of having and want to show off. We're going to use some things that would either be scrap or just don't look the best. So I'll start with this bunch of green onions. Actually, nothing wrong with it other than it just sat out at the market a little too long and got a little wilty. But we'll just cut it into a few pieces here. And we'll pretty much put the whole thing in there. I will trim off the roots just in case there's any sand or dirt. that may have gotten trapped in when we washed them. Throw all this in the compost. Next I have some regular onions. These are just kind of small ones that people probably wouldn't buy. If you ever wonder how farmers get their booze to look so good, it's because they eat all the ugly stuff themselves. So we're just going to cut off the root end. Again, you don't really need to do that, but just in case there's a little sand in there. And you can leave any skins that are fairly firm attached. They'll just add flavor and color to our chicken stock. All this will be strained anyway, so it won't end up in the food. And I always like to have some herbs in my chicken stock. Anything will do. Thyme is really good this time of year, so just whole. I'm not going to bother stemming it or anything. We'll just throw it in there whole. Then, secret to good stock, just a splash of apple cider vinegar. You won't taste that. It's not going to add any noticeable flavor, but it will help extract all the minerals and nutrients, glucosamine, etc., from the connective tissue and the bones of the chicken. Finally, we'll add water to cover the chicken. And to finish, put the lid on the crock, put this in the crock pot on high for 12 to 20 hours, something in that frame. And we'll come back tomorrow. Okay. It's been about 15 hours, so we're ready to strain out the stock we made with our stewing hen. Any lidded, large enough container will do. I'm going to use this stock pot because I didn't use it to make stock. We'll begin by removing the chicken, which I didn't cut up, you'll remember, but you'll see it's now just falling apart tender. I don't need to get it all out, but we don't want large bits falling into the strainer. Set this aside. And now carefully pour our stock through the strainer. Go ahead and pick out these now completely limp vegetables. All of their goodness is transferred to the stock. So to the compost for that with them. We'll return the chicken to the crock pot. And we'll move all this to the refrigerator for 8 hours or so. While our stock and chicken are cooling, I'm going to go ahead and roast our vegetables so they're ready tomorrow when it comes time to put everything together into our stew. So I'm going to start with some of these little shallots that I just peeled and halved. You could use any kind of aromatic allium, onions, leeks, garlic, something like that if you don't have shallots. You might have a hard time finding little baby shallots like this. Large farms will grade their shallots so you only find the large ones at grocery stores. If you go to farmers markets, sorry about that, if you go to farmers markets, the farmer may bring all different sizes of shallots, at least to some degree. This size we usually use for replanting for next year's harvest, but you get about 25-30% in our system of the small size, so it's more than we need to save, and they're really great for these types of uses. Next, I decided to use a variety of different colors of radishes. People don't think about radishes in the fall, but it's a great time for them. I'm going to just chop these up into bite-sized pieces. That one was really big. I might make a little extra cut. That's not the proper way to do that. But a variety of different colors of radishes will look pretty and give us a good variety of color in our final dish. Chop these to bite size, so they're about the same cooking time as the other ingredients. Next, we'll add some potatoes. We'll start with these purple Peruvian fingerling potatoes. These are my absolute favorite potato of all time, and they're kind of rare and hard to find. I picked out just real small ones that are already bite-sized, so I don't need to chop them. These will be whole. It'll give us a different shape as well as color. Then I've got a mix of regular potatoes. We've got some Kennebec and some red Pontiac. As is usual, I've saved the ugly ones for ourselves. Finally, tromboncini squash. This is one of the best food values you can find. You don't see them very often because they don't transport real well. It's a real thin-skinned squash. This flavor's kind of halfway between a butternut and a zucchini. This whole neck is seedless, so you can use the whole thing without having to seed it or anything. It's also fairly thin-skinned, so there's no need to peel. Now down here we have some seeds. Don't really like to eat those, so I'm just going to cut the seeds out and cut these up. With all of our veg prepared, you can see we have a really colorful mix of different vegetables. We got squash, we've got radish, we've got 3 different kinds of potatoes. And got those shallots in there. So we're just going to do a little light seasoning. So we'll start with just a little bit of olive oil. A little bit of black pepper. And a little bit of salt. We'll toss that. And because I have so much veg in this bowl, we'll do another round here to make sure everything gets a little bit of love. We have 2 sheet pans covered in parchment paper. Parchment really makes cleanup easy. quick thrifty tip. You can use parchment paper more than one time. I use this to make some bagels, and it's still a perfectly usable sheet of parchment paper. Spread our veggies out evenly on the sheet pans. Make sure everything's in a single layer. And we'll put this in a 475-degree oven. We'll stir about every 15 minutes. Okay, our first 15 minutes is up. We'll add a little herbage when we stir. Just a little rosemary. You could use thyme, anything durable like that. Sage would be good. And I'll just put a couple of sprigs in each pan. And back for another 15. As you can see, some nice little crinkles and some color. Everything's tender. I think I will leave it just maybe another 10 minutes. Yeah. And that's what we're looking for. Some nice color, caramelization. You can see the squash is tender. Radishes are tender with a crispy exterior. Potatoes. The shallots. So this will be a tender and delicious and colorful base for our chicken stew. We'll let it cool in a single layer so everything maintains its texture. And then we'll assemble everything in a couple of hours. Once our chicken has cooled, we'll go ahead and shred all the meat. It's completely tender now and just falls off. Okay, so as you can see, it's a small little stewing hen. You don't get a whole lot of meat, but it's very flavorful. You can use this in any way that you would use shredded chicken in any recipe. All the leftover bone and skin will freeze, and next time we make stock, we'll just throw it in there and continue to extract the nutrients from it. The bones will actually, they're already fairly soft, but they will almost completely dissolve in stock the next time. Now I've removed the fat from our stock and I'm beginning to reheat it in a large Dutch oven. I'm going to make a quick roux. So about a tablespoon of butter for low heat, about 2 tablespoons of flour. So this will make more roux than I think we need, but better to have it and not need it than to need it and have it not have it. I'm only going to cook this until it just starts to change color. And we'll add some in to our stock. Now we're going for for stew, not gravy here. So we'll whisk this until it starts to thicken. We're a long way from gravy, not as thick as most stews, but I'm going to load this up with a whole bunch of veggies, so I guess you can call this more of a stoop. We're going to be about halfway between. I'm going to get those vegetables that we made earlier today. Pull out the rosemary stems. And we'll go ahead and add these. Stir those in, and you can see already it's becoming colorful and rich, much thicker than a standard soup. And we'll take our shredded chicken. So the chicken was cold, the vegetables are room temperature. So we'll leave this on low, covered for a few minutes, and we'll come back when it's simmering. Okay, let's just finish this meal off because Xenia's hungry. So just put a little splash of something acidic in some water here. We'll take one of these nice apples. And we'll slice it thin. Keep those in there so they don't turn brown. We'll just eat this. I'll try a couple Asian pears in this. Okay, a few pea shoots. And then let's toast a few pumpkin seeds. All those are going. Made a little pan de pie. We'll give a couple pieces to each of us. Sprinkle some micro radish. A little color, a little bite. Some micro cabbage. Some more color for it. Remember, we didn't have any salt or pepper in that stock. So we need to taste for seasoning here. I think it needed a little acid too, so we're just gonna put a splash of this apple cider vinegar here since it's out. And we'll get our fruits. I'm going to pull these off shortly before they're done. They'll keep cooking. A little crunch for the salad. And we'll garnish a little bit. So just look at all the colors and textures that we got from roasting those veggies using just a stewing hen most people would toss. And there we go. An entirely local meal right here from Culver and Mishawaka Farmers Markets. All in season. As always, support your local farmers and your local food producers and eat well.